If you've been following along with my channel, you've already seen my Eastern Conference and Western Conference playoff previews and predictions for the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Today, I'm going to be revealing to you my full bracket and my full predictions right through, including my 2019 Stanley Cup winner. I'll reveal all my picks coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. Now, before we jump into today's picks, I just want to remind you, in case you hadn't seen it before, there is a bracket challenge set up for the Top Shelf Hockey community here. For everybody who follows this YouTube channel, there is a link down below in the description or the pinned comment. So if you haven't already and you want to take part in it, it's just for fun, just to see who can get the most predictions right for the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. Click the link down below and fill out your bracket and let's have some fun. We have a fair bit of people in there so far, but I wouldn't mind adding some more here before the playoffs get started here tomorrow evening. I'm going to quickly recap the first round selections that I've already made and revealed in the other Eastern Conference and Western Conference videos, just in case you haven't seen that, and then we'll go through the rest of it here right through to the Stanley Cup winner. So as you can see in the Western Conference, I picked the Calgary Flames to defeat the Colorado Avalanche. I picked them to win, most likely in 6 games, but I said it could be a little bit sooner. I do think the Calgary Flames are just too deep and too strong of a team here to not get past the Avalanche. Now, I do recognize the fact that the Avalanche have been an absolutely terrific team, very hot here down the stretch to get themselves into the playoffs, but I did predict that as well. I had made some videos before predicting who would get into the playoffs as recently as the last few weeks leading into the last stretch of the season, and I did say Colorado would score themselves into the playoffs here, and they also got some pretty solid goaltending from Philip Grubauer as well, which really helped them win a lot of games down the stretch and get into the playoffs. But the playoffs are an entirely different beast here. I know we've kind of had a little bit of a debate in the other Western Conference preview video with many Avalanche fans, and I wasn't discounting the fact that they haven't been hot down the stretch here. They have played extremely well to get into the playoffs. But you know what? That doesn't mean everything. It's only an indication of how things are going to go. But to be honest here, looking back at past series, how you go into the playoffs doesn't always indicate how you're going to perform there. Having a 7-game series against one team is certainly going to be an entirely different beast here. So as much as the Avalanche have had a terrific run here to get into the playoffs, I do think it ends in the first round against the Calgary Flames. Now in the series pitting the San Jose Sharks against the Vegas Golden Knights, I did pick Vegas to win that series in 6 games. To be honest, San Jose's goaltending woes this year kind of concern me. Martin Jones and Aaron Dell haven't been fantastic. They've had their fair share of injuries. I have some concerns over Erik Karlsson and whether or not he's going to be up to par or if he's going to be rusty going into the first part of the playoffs as well. He's missed a fair bit of time with that injury, so that's also another X factor. And you combine that with the fact that I expect big things out of Marc-Andre Fleury in the Vegas net. All the additions they've made from last year, I honestly think Vegas might actually be a better team than they were last year, and last year they went almost all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So I'm picking Vegas to win that series in 6 games as well. Over to the Nashville Predators versus the Dallas Stars. I expect this to be a very tight, low-scoring affair, but I do expect the Predators to likely win in 5 or 6 games. I do think the Nashville Predators are just a little bit too deep here. Always concerned about injuries for Ben Bishop. He has been great this year for Dallas, but he's always getting hurt at the worst opportunities here. So we'll see if he can stay healthy and play the whole series. Obviously, if he can, that could certainly give Dallas a more of a fighting chance. But I just think the Predators are too deep here. The blue line is certainly better. The goaltending is more consistent, and they do have a deeper group of forwards, in my opinion. The Stars have had some pretty decent production in the top 6 lately, but I just think that Nashville will be too tough and they will overcome Dallas. In the Winnipeg versus St. Louis series, I did pick the Jets to go in 7 games. Really, this is a series that wouldn't shock me to see the Blues win. I don't think, regardless of who wins, there's really an upset here. St. Louis has been probably the best team in the NHL really since some point in January, February, when things kind of turned around here. They had fired their coach, hired Craig Berube, brought up Jordan Binnington from the minors, and that team just really started to take off and click from there. But I do think, even though Winnipeg has struggled down the stretch, I think they can find another gear here, find another level. And even though I do have some concerns, I'm going to stick with them here. And I think if they can get past St. Louis, That's going to possibly even be for them one of the, if not the toughest challenge for them in the playoffs. But I am taking the Jets to win in 7 games. Over in the Eastern Conference, I have Tampa Bay defeating Columbus in 5 games. I think Tampa Bay is just too deep and too strong. Columbus has played very well as of late as well. Sergei Bobrovsky's been great, but I obviously have concerns whether or not playoff Sergei Bobrovsky will be able to match regular season Sergei Bobrovsky, which he's yet to do in his career. And so I'm picking Tampa to win in 5 games in that one. Boston and Toronto, I do think could go deep 6 or 7 games. I think many people are underestimating Toronto, but they have tons of firepower. I just have concerns over their blue line, being able to handle those Boston forwards, and I do think Boston has an edge on the blue line in that regard. Their top line is clicking at an incredibly high rate. They're dangerous in all situations, and I just think that the Bruins are just still a little bit too strong for Toronto to overcome. So I'm taking the Bruins, but I can see that possibly being a 7-game series yet again. I did predict an upset with Washington, Carolina, with the Hurricanes going over the defending Stanley Cup champions in a 7-game hard-fought series. Obviously, I know I took a little bit of flack in the Eastern Conference preview video for that one, but I just think that Carolina has so many things going well for them here. I think there's definitely an argument here that Washington is definitely the stronger team on paper, but you have to have a lot of things fall into place, and I just think the Hurricanes are due here for a victory, and I can see their goaltending kind of stealing this series. I think Mrazek's going to play very well in net. Their defense has been solid all year as well, and I just think they're going to be able to shut down that Capitals offense. Young guns led up front by Aho, Niederreiter, Teravainen, etc. are going to be able to get that job done. I got a feeling Holtby's just not going to be up to the task like he was last year, and the Hurricanes are going to create an upset here. But that's just my gut feeling, just my opinion here. I would not be shocked to have that one wrong, as Washington's a very solid team, and things very well might go very differently. But that's who I picked there in 7 games. I do have the Islanders going over the Penguins as well. Still feels like an upset, even though the Islanders are the higher-ranked team. But, either way, the Islanders were the stingiest team all year, best defensive team, and I just think they have what it takes here to take down the mighty Penguins. It's hard to bet against the Penguins, though. I must say that was a hard choice. I have that going in 7 games here as well. With all that experience in 2 of the last 3 Cups, it's really hard to imagine that I predicted the last 3 Cup winners between Pittsburgh and Washington out in the first round, and we won't see a Sid versus Ovi matchup in round 1 or 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs this year if I hold these predictions to become true. So we'll see. I certainly would not be shocked if I, obviously don't expect to get all of these right, but, if my thing holds true here, we're going to see some upsets, which we generally always do. So now let's jump over and take a look at the next round here and how all this would play out in round 2 and beyond. Obviously, with my predictions in round 2, we'd have Calgary versus Vegas and Nashville versus Winnipeg in the Western Conference. I did pick the Vegas Golden Knights to defeat the Calgary Flames. I can see that being a longer series as well, likely 6 or 7 games. But I just think the Vegas, it's hard to bet against them after what they accomplished last year. Even though the Calgary Flames do look like a stronger team on paper, probably a little bit of a deeper team, I do have some more question marks over their experience. And even though Vegas has a lot of players that don't have a ton of experience, they were able to add some guys like Pacioretty and Stone, etc., and Paul Stastny, who do have a lot of experience. Plus, they gained a lot of valuable experience last year. They got a great coach, a great goaltender, and I can just see the Vegas Golden Knights taking down the Flames here in the 2nd round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Over in the other series in the West, we'd have a rematch of last year, seeing the Nashville Predators battle the Winnipeg Jets, and I do have the Jets going over the Predators in a hard-fought series there as well. The Nashville Predators, in my opinion, just aren't deep enough when it comes to the offensive weapons. They are a very deep defensive team. They do have a really strong group of forwards. But again, Pekka Rinne is kind of like that goaltender as well. Just haven't been able to quite get over that hump and win the big game. And I just have a feeling the Jets are going to be too strong and too deep here and go over the Nashville Predators in round 2, setting up a rematch of last year's conference final of the Winnipeg Jets versus the Vegas Golden Knights in the Western Conference. Now let's jump over and take a look at my 2nd round predictions for the Eastern Conference, where I have the Tampa Bay Lightning doing battle with the Boston Bruins in one matchup, and the other one seeing both upset teams, the Carolina Hurricanes, battling the New York Islanders. So obviously one of those 2 upset teams, if this holds true, would then go to the conference final, which would be quite remarkable for either club to accomplish that. I do have Tampa Bay going over Boston, but I can see them having a harder time with Boston this year than they did in last year's playoffs. Tampa Bay is just so strong, it's really hard to imagine a team who can take them down. Now, of course, there's always a possibility of injuries, which we can't really predict here. But barring Tampa Bay running into injuries, I do think getting this deep into the playoffs should not be too difficult for them. but you just never know. They're difficult to predict, but just looking at them on paper, they just look too strong in my opinion. I do have the Islanders defeating the Hurricanes. I think, again, defense typically wins championships, and Robin Leonard and that decor of the New York Islanders were phenomenal this year, way better than expected, greatly improved over last year. The stingiest team in the NHL will continue to be stingy and stop the surging Hurricanes and go on to the conference finals here to do battle against the mighty Tampa Bay Lightning in the Eastern Final. That sets up our Final Fours in the Eastern Final of the Tampa Bay Lightning doing battle with the New York Islanders, and then it also sets up the Western Conference of the Winnipeg Jets battling the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, over in the Western Conference, I do have the Winnipeg Jets taking down Vegas. A little different narrative than last year. Obviously, Vegas went to the finals, but I do see it being a very hotly contested matchup, probably going 6 or 7 games. But I think once Winnipeg gets going here in the first round, they've hit their stride here. They've become that dominant team they were expected to be. I do think once getting past St. Louis, they're really going to become a force to be reckoned with here and end up going all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. Winnipeg is the team I predicted to come out of the Western Conference at the beginning of the season, and I am sticking with that prediction, but Vegas will certainly give Winnipeg a really difficult time here. As much as everybody likes to talk about the story of Marc-Andre Fleury in last year's playoffs, and he was remarkable, which was a big part of why they went as far as they did, you can obviously give him a lot of credit for his past success in Pittsburgh when they won Stanley Cups there as well. But at the same time, there's also some reasons why Pittsburgh failed in some of those playoff runs, and it really always boils down to goaltending. I just have a feeling that Hellebuck is going to outduel Fleury, or he won't be able to keep up last year's performance. It's just his performance was so strong that keeping up those type of numbers are very, very difficult, and even the slightest dip could be the difference here. So I am predicting the Winnipeg Jets to defeat Vegas in the Western Final and go on to play for the Stanley Cup. Over in the Eastern Conference, the mighty Tampa Bay Lightning will take down the New York Islanders. That's where their fairy tale run will end. The President's Trophy winners will then go on to play Winnipeg for the Stanley Cup. Again, I just don't see Tampa Bay having any real stiff competition in the Eastern Conference. They're certainly the class of the league right now. They're certainly by far the runaway winners of the President's Trophy. They're just so deep, so strong in so many ways. I just don't see another Eastern Conference team being able to take them out of the playoffs. So this matchup actually sets up the Stanley Cup Final that I predicted in my season opening predictions back at the beginning of the season. I realized the Winnipeg Jets were not quite as strong in the regular season as I predicted them to be, but I do think they are fully capable of getting this task done and going to the finals and doing battle with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, when the regular season opened, I did predict the Stanley Cup champions to be the Winnipeg Jets, and I have a feeling that is going to still hold true. Now, many of you might disagree with this, and that's totally fine. Certainly leave your opinions down in the comment section. We can continue the discussion, but I think this year, the Winnipeg Jets win the Stanley Cup over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I just think that team, once they get going here in the playoffs, they get Connor Hellebuck in the zone, and they get all of their top forwards and D going at the rate that they're capable of. I do think they can give Tampa Bay a very strong matchup here and take the Stanley Cup back to Winnipeg and give the Jets fans something they've been looking for a really, really, really long time. It will not be any easy task, and I can see it going 6 or 7 games. The Tampa Bay Lightning are going to fall just a little bit short of the Stanley Cup here, and that so-called curse of the President's Trophy is going to live on here. Oftentimes we see the President's Trophy winner not capture the Stanley Cup, and I just have a feeling we're going to see that here yet again this year. But at the same time, if there's a team that could break that curse, Tampa Bay certainly looks like they very well could be that team. So, of course, this is just my predictions, just my opinions here. I never claim to get everything right. I'd love to hear your predictions down below in the comment section. We can continue the discussion here. And instead, if you're up for the challenge, join our bracket challenge, put through your bracket, and we can have some fun here throughout the playoffs and see who can get the most predictions correct throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. We also have the NHL Draft Lottery taking place in Toronto tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, so there will be a video coming out after that is complete discussing who won the top 3 selections. And obviously, we don't have to do any more simulations here. We will know the actual picks for the order here for the teams that are not making the playoffs, so stay tuned for that this evening. If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up before you go. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching. We will catch you next time.